Now, in other news, calm has returned to Pakistan's capital, Islamabad, after security forces cleared out protesters demanding the release of former Prime Minister Imran Khan in an operation early Wednesday morning. Thousands of people have been arrested, and the PTI party says it's mulling its next steps. For more on this story, we can bring in Gareth Price, an expert on South Asia. Thank you so much for joining us here on France 24. What do you make of this calm which we're seeing right now? Is it just a short pause for more action on the street?
I think, as you said, we're waiting to see what the PTI's next move is. This is the fourth of their major protests. This was billed as a do-or-die mission. The government has shown that it's willing to, as you say, arrest hundreds, if not thousands, of PTI supporters. So we'll see what their next steps are. But so far, no signs of dialogue and no signs of either side backing down from their positions.
Given that there has been no signs of dialogue and Imran Khan seems to be putting all his cards on the table, either it's now or never, what's the likely outcome?
I mean, it's one of the sort of irreconcilable problems of politics in Pakistan, where you have a military that wants to determine who's in power, and you have Pakistan's most popular politician, Imran Khan, imprisoned. And, I don't know where you want to start the story, but if we go back to the election in February earlier this year, the early reports suggested that Imran Khan's party was likely to win a majority, at which point all the assessments stopped, and it turned out that the party hadn't won a majority. And he remains in prison on a number of charges, which his supporters say are trumped up, and indeed some of those charges have been rejected by Pakistan's courts. So it's a mess.
What do you make of Imran Khan's wife, who sort of stepped in from the shadows, if you will, and we saw her lead the protests over the past few days? Do you think that could be a sign of a change for things to come?
Right, so really much has been made of Imran Khan apparently calling for the protest to be held outside of or in the outskirts of Islamabad, and instead she seems to have taken a decision to hold them in the middle of the town. At the same time, when the armed forces, the security forces, started to crack down on the protest, she left and returned to the state that her party still controls in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And, there have been suggestions that by fleeing the protest, she might have lost some support, but I think that's speculative at this stage.
We have clearly seen the influence of Pakistan's army over the course of years, if not decades, in that country. But given that Imran Khan remains this very popular figure, his party, despite him being in jail, came out on top in elections earlier this year. So we have this party that's super popular, yet at the same time we have this army that won't hesitate in flexing its muscle. Are either side going to compromise, or is it just going to have the status quo forever?
I think you've got to add on to this that the economic crisis that the country faces at the moment, it got an IMF bailout of $7 billion a couple of months ago. But there's a lot of people upset with the economic situation as well as the political situation. And one of the causes of the economic problems, a lot of which are to do with government spending too much or taxing too little, however you want to put it, is because the army takes a lot of that money, because the army is the most powerful institution in Pakistan and pretty much the only well-funded institution. So the whole thing, I mean, essentially at any point over the last few decades, you could have looked at this quandary. The only issue is that now the opposition politician calling for change is Imran Khan. At other times it's been Benazir Bhutto, and indeed at other times it's been the Sharifs, Shehbaz Sharif being the current Prime Minister of Pakistan. So that tension is basically unsolvable while the army wants to maintain its level of power within Pakistan.
Okay, so it doesn't seem like much is going to change in the months or weeks to come. We'll see how this story unfolds. Thank you so much, Gareth, for joining us on the program today.